Yesterday I did a video about the OMB placing a hold, an unconstitutional freeze on federal spending, federal aid, federal grants, a host of items that is now shutting off Medicaid in states all across the country and SNAP benefit. It is having a real world, individual life-altering effect on people. I don't mean just like, yeah, the government's going to shut down and you don't really know exactly what it's impacting real people with children who aren't going to be able to feed their kids, to no concern of Donald Trump or the administration. And Chuck Schumer, I almost played the clip from Chuck Schumer. I didn't because it wasn't strong enough. Right now, we're in a crisis. If you're a Democrat, we're in a crisis in the country because Democrats aren't being the opposition party. They're voting for Donald Trump's nominees for the cabinet. They're just, we're concerned about this, but they're not actually doing anything. They have the power, especially in the United States Senate. The way it works in the House, the majority really has more of a stranglehold on the agenda. They can just run roughshod because they have one vote majority. That's not the way it is in the Senate. The way it's organized in the Senate is the minority has a lot more power about what gets voted for because of the cloture vote and how many people have to be present. Certain votes are 60 to end debate because of the filibuster. They've got a lot of power. And they could absolutely halt the agenda of Donald Trump by saying, you either stop doing this or we're going to put a freeze on everything. They could do this, but they're not doing that. Instead, they're finding common ground where we can with Donald Trump, making the fascist administration operate just a little bit smoother, just a little bit easier. Donald Trump is the existential crisis to the country and to democracy that we claimed he was, and the Democrats need to start acting like he is. That's where I'll start. That's where I'll start with that. So Chuck Schumer gave a statement. I'm going to play the statement. But Alina Habba, the never won a case of any import in her life, Alina Habba, out here talking like she's just chalking up the W's. She made a comment on Fox News about what your opinion about the OMB freeze doesn't matter. What the only opinion that matters is Donald Trump's and the Attorney General and White House counsel. This is a woman who's an officer of the court, a trained lawyer. I mean, again, a terrible lawyer if you've witnessed anything relative to her involvement with the cases of Donald Trump. It's a nightmare. She's not a number you want to call. She said this. Not that the courts or the Supreme Court has a say, not that Congress, who actually appropriates the money, has a say. No, it's these executive agencies. It's antithetical to the law and the Constitution. It's not how shit works. But because she's in good graces under the wing of Donald Trump, she gets to make her media appearances and be disrespectful and also just incorrect about the reality of our government. Watch Alina Habba, then I'm going to play the clip from Chuck Schumer to give you some context for what she's saying.
Well, a couple things first, Chuck. Your attorney general is not the attorney general. We have an attorney general. That will be Pam Bondi. And what your opinion is on what the law is doesn't really matter. It's what the White House counsel says and what our attorney general of the United States says.
The White House counsel and the attorney general's opinion about what the law isn't the be-all, end-all. That would be the Supreme Court of the United States, which, unfortunately, in our current situation, is 6-3 conservative Democrat and packed to the gills with radical extremists like Samuel Alito, like Clarence Thomas, like Neil Gorsuch, like Amy Coney Barrett, like Brett Kavanaugh, and to a lesser extent, John Roberts. They also have a say, Alina Habba. Did you miss that day of law school? Did you skip constitutional law and the basic, I mean, you don't even have to learn it in law school. Did you skip junior high, sister? Anyway, this is what she was railing about, is an offhand comment that Chuck Schumer made about his attorney general in the state of New York, Letitia James, and what she will be doing to combat Donald Trump. We'll talk about why he said that and what that means after you hear this statement.
Look, last night, President Trump plunged the country into chaos without a shred of warning. The Trump administration announced a halt to virtually all federal funds across the country. In an instant, Donald Trump has shut off billions, perhaps trillions of dollars that directly support states, cities, towns, schools, hospitals, small businesses, and most of all, American families. This is a dagger at the heart of the average American family in red states, in blue states, in cities, in suburbs, in rural areas. It is just outrageous. Funds for things like disaster assistance, local law enforcement, rural hospitals, aid to the elderly, food for people in need, all are on the chopping block in this new administration. Why? They need tax cuts for the ultra-wealthy, and these cuts, they think, will fund them. Every one of our offices has been deluged with calls from people who are in panic. What is this going to mean? What if I have a hospital that has people on life support? What are we going to do? And just like the January 6th pardons, this decision is lawless, dangerous, destructive, cruel. It's illegal. It's unconstitutional. I spoke to my Attorney General this morning. She's head of the State Attorneys General Association. They're going to court right away on this horror. This, plain and simple, this is Project 2025. Project 2025 by another name. They knew how unpopular Project 2025 was, but the right-wing ideologues are still in control. So they had to do it in a different way, but it has the same consequences and will have the same horrible, negative, overwhelming reaction from the American people. And who is going to be the implementer of this? None other than the chief cook and bottle washer of Project 2025, Russell Vought. Putting someone like Russell Vought at OMB, the architect of Project 2025, is a huge danger sign to America.
Other than the fact it's not strong enough, it's not giving direction, it's bad messaging on the part of Democrats, what he said is correct. The problem I have with what he said is that he's leaning on Tish James in New York rather than doing something with the power vested in him as the minority leader of the United States Senate. Absolutely, this term, maybe more than the first, we're going to be needing to rely upon states' attorneys general to throw out roadblocks to Donald Trump, to deny, to try to delay, at the very least, and deny, if they can, wins from Donald Trump. It's going to be state attorneys general, state courts, individual cases from advocacy groups. Those are what, especially in the absence of Democrats actually fighting back, we're going to need to rely on these organizations. We're going to need to rely on, unfortunately, independent media to be calling the shots, or calling balls and strikes, since traditional media is all loving the grundle butter of Donald Trump. I mean, come on. What are we doing? You have idiots as spokespeople for an idiot president saying untrue things, convincing America that that's how it works, as though the White House counsel has any role whatsoever to play in policy. They do not. They are there to represent the presidency of the United States, and that's it. And it's not to represent Donald Trump, the presidency. Anyway, now we're going into the weeds. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. As always, you can comment below. You can also call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me as always, daily@dollemore.com. I do want to hear from you. Consider supporting this work. Independent media is important more than ever now. We gotta get tired of doing this whole thing. Man. Do you ever have a day where you wake up and there's just a dark cloud? Because you know the things you're going to have. Well, you don't do what I do, but I know you wake up and you feel depressed, you feel bummed, you feel uncertain about the future. That was today for me. And like I say, although I have a weird gig and I come down here and look into a camera with lights and a microphone here, I go through it emotionally just like you. And it just hit me. So anyway, I love and appreciate you. If you have a comforting word, you can leave that in the comments. I'm going to have to spend a lot more time in the comments trying to avoid the landmines that are MAGA morons. Anyway, I love you. I appreciate you. I'll see you next time. Be genuine. Take care of one another.